everybody, and we're live. Yay! Thank you to everyone who's joining us right now. We have really exciting session zero of Bludgeon. Now, to talk a little bit about Bludgeon, we have our GM, Tejas. Can you start us off
Hello.
with a little bit of introduction about yourself?
Sure. Hey, everybody. My name's Tejas. I am a game designer by profession, but for digital games. And Bludgeon was kind of a passion project. I've been building it out with my friends for the last 10 years, more or less. And it's come around in stages because we've done it or built it just for fun. And yeah, that's kind of the short version of who I am. Most of my identity is kind of attached to Bludgeon at this point.
Yeah, and like honestly, if I think like I would totally agree with that. Honestly, I didn't realize that Tactics and Chai was your personal account that was just filled with an insane amount of Bludgeon lore. That was so cool to find out. Next, we have someone who's been with us on TPK before. Shweta, quick introduction, please.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Shweta, and that's it. Bye.
But honestly speaking, if you want to know more about Shweta, you have to check out some of the other games we played. But if you truly want to get to know her, come to our server because she runs an insane amount of games over there. And I have honestly only even realized anything about published adventures because she's run so many of those campaigns. And it's been so cool. She also does fantastic art. From shout out here to Translucent Deep like Monica, because Monica just does amazing art. Next, we have two new people who are new to streaming as well. Abhishek, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, guys. I'm here to represent an important community, the idiots, the academically ungifted, people for whom 7 plus 8 is maths. But yes, I'll be here to do some weird shit, I hope.
Basic arithmetic. Okay. Next, we have Adi. Adi, it's so good to have you here. I see that you are starting up your own store as well. That is pretty cool. Can you tell us a bit about it too?
Hey folks, I'm Adi. Really excited to get up on one of the TPK streamed games because I've just been, oh, you guys do such cool shit. Anyway, I'm sorry, I shall control myself. But I am also, as Shima pointed out, starting my own little small business and hopefully plan to cater to geeks, nerds, and other people with such cool interests.
Yay.
So, yes.
And where can we find you?
I'm Noonlight Creations on Instagram. For now, there is more pies in the metaphorical oven, but let us see.
Awesome. And to anyone new joining us, I'm Shema, also known as Kumi. I have a little page called Kumi's Curiosities where I sell a bit of D&D merch. I also do a couple of other streams. Check out Girls Run These Worlds. They're an amazing women-led community that does like a zillion streams. Like they just have an insane amount of streams. They're damn cool. But now to get into the flesh of the matter, we
15.
are playing
It's 15.
Dungeon. Sorry?
Yeah. Nothing. 7 plus 8 is 15. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So, getting into session zero of Bludgeon. Tejas, could you start us off where talking about Bludgeon? How did you even come up with the system?
Okay. Well, we started it because we were playing, I think it was 4E, or we had played Call of Cthulhu in like a week span, one after the other. And I think just after one of the sessions, we were walking back home and we were like, yeah, the combat could be so much better. And I think that's just like a game developer thing where you're always like, oh, something can always be better. So we just started talking about like, wouldn't it be cool if we could do this? Wouldn't it be cool if we could do that? And over time, we just like, oh wait, we formalized a rule set for a bard initially, and then we're like, oh, we can expand this into other arcane related classes. And then the question was, oh, what if we did the same thing but for all the fighting type people, and then all the divine stuff, and so on and so forth. So that's how it really started. It was, being a little drunk and just full of ourselves, saying that we know what we're talking about. The bludgeon system kind of has three core things that we kind of go for. We've always believed that the mechanics you have should like support your roleplay. The way the mechanics play out should kind of help tell that story of what's happening, especially in combat, because that's kind of where we began. And we wanted things to be modular. We didn't want you to be kind of pigeonholed, into a single sort of play style just because you made a choice very early on. We wanted you to have the ability to kind of move around or adapt to things that were happening. And even though it's not written here, we always like rolling dice. So as many opportunities to roll more dice, I'll provide those. So that's in a nutshell what bludgeon is. So like I was talking about earlier, like we kind of defined these big sort of sections of the types of powers as umbrella terms. So we've got 5. We've got martial, Eastern martial, primal, arcane, and divine, and each one kind of has a governing core mechanic, the way it works, and the classes underneath that kind of interact with that in different ways. So as a prime example, arcane, they use spellcrafting. So when you're playing any sort of the arcane classes, from a bard to a wizard to a warlock, you will be crafting spells. But then the way you craft spells and what you have access to, and how the considerations you have will change drastically from class to class. Martial classes are all about stances. So you have different combat stances, and you can then mix and match different combat stances to kind of create this custom fighting style that just works for you. Eastern martial is a bit of that, but they have this added mechanic of a balance bar. So when you're in combat, you have a little balance bar that pushes you towards either power or precision, and you're always moving across that back and forth. But there will always be that one moment when you hit perfect 0, and when you hit that, you have this, magnificent moment where you have like a really cool wuxia style super move that you can pull off. Primal works entirely different because they're all about building power over time. So you start small, you get little buffs, and then you start trading in these buffs for bigger powers, and then big spells as well. So that is a class that just kind of keeps building up power the longer a combat goes on. And the divine system is kind of interesting because we centered it around the concept of prayers. And the idea is that each of the subclasses will be, chanting a prayer, and that will be affecting people around them. And each prayer has a passive effect and a triggerable effect. And the more these the trigger occurs, you start accruing divinity because your god's like, oh, you're doing the things that I believe in, and so you are getting boons, and you can use those to channel your divinity into these powerful attacks over time. And underneath all of that is our stat system, right? Our stat system it is a 9x9 grid with body, mind, and charisma as your 3 vectors. And underneath each, as rows, are kind of like a long-term, short-term, and a reactionary version of each. So the way I like to explain it is stamina would be your ability to run a marathon. Your strength would be your ability to pick up speed as soon as that marathon began, or halfway through the marathon, just push yourself for those moments of exertion. And finesse would be your ability to kind of keep your balance when the road or the track you're running on is uneven, or if you were about to trip. And the same applies across the mind and charisma columns. And what we do in bludgeon is instead of just straight up saying, hey, I want to do X, and then there's an associated skill and stat, it's more contextual. What I will ask you to do is tell me what you're doing and how. So if you say, I want to walk into this room and I want to scan for clues, that's a very nebulous thing to say. How are you scanning for clues? That's going to be my question, always. And once you tell me how you're doing that, I can tell you what stat applies. You could be scanning for clues by saying, okay, I remember the things that someone had told me earlier, or I've been a detective and I remember my past cases, so I'm looking for things that are similar. Then I'd ask you for a memory check. If you were coming in and saying, I'm going to just look around everything as meticulously as possible, I'll ask you for maybe stamina, because that's something you're going to do long term for a few minutes. I could even add in a combo stat things. That's a bit of wit and a bit of stamina, and so on and so forth. So that's the contextual part of how all of this works. And finally, there's your race and your upgrade points. With races, we've gone a slightly different route. Let me just scroll down. So if, let's say, we look at the Theta, right? Every race has different adaptations, which is different ways they can have physical changes based off of where they grew up, the parts of the world they have, and every DM can add little additions to this, have little changes, can even define that, oh, these adaptations come from the northern region. So most Theta from the northern region will definitely have, let's say, a longer tail as compared to ones from the south. It opens you up to like think about your character in terms of their physicality, as well as gives you cool little advantages, both in combat and outside of it. And it's not just a stat boost. We stay away from direct stat boosts more often than not. It'll always be something you can actively do. And then you have upgrade points. And this is going to come into play when you create your characters, where you will have a starting pool of upgrade points that you can use to unlock new skills, new passives, new actives, or even more racial adaptations. And over time, when you level up, you gain more of these upgrade points. And that, in not so much of a nutshell, are the core mechanics of Bludgeon.
Awesome. So, to start it up, any questions by anybody else?
Can I make a proposal that we call Tejas Bludgeon Master?
Yes, Bludgeon Master, definitely.
That is what it says on my Twitter.
I'm gonna put BM everywhere now.
But yeah, like if you guys have any questions, or if there's anything you want to see, even if there's anybody in chat who wants to know something more, I'd be happy to answer those. If not, I can just take you through how I lead everyone into creating a character.
Just a quick question as to how do the overbear stats work? Is it similar to how it works in Call of Cthulhu and stuff like that?
Here we go. I'm a little unfamiliar with Call of Cthulhu because it's been quite a few years since I last played it. But the way it works for us is that you have an overbear stat, and whenever you're trying to apply a status effect to someone else, it'll the person you're applying it to has to roll, and they're going to try and beat your overbear stat. Right? So if, for example, you were trying to stun an enemy, and let's say the overbear for it said tenacity, you'd say, okay, he has to roll versus my tenacity. The stat block would mention what stat he has to use. So, and you'd say, okay, it's his, let's say, strength versus my tenacity. So I'll roll and add the strength. And if it's lower than your tenacity, which could be, let's say, 15, then the character is stunned. If it's higher, they manage to not be stunned.
And it's a D20 system again, or
it is? Yeah, the core of the system is a D20. So for all the main rolls that you do, you'll use a D20. For anything that is damage, you'll use various other dice. We have a competency system, which is skills that your character knows, and they come in 3 levels. The higher the level, you add 1d6 to your d20 roll. So if you were using that investigation example, if you went into that role, irrespective of what you did, if you had a skill that says maybe detect clues or maybe tracking or anything that you think might apply, you could ask if that applies. I'll say yes or no, and I'll say yes, you can add that. At which point you'll check what level it is. Let's assume it was level 2, in which case you'd add 2d6 to your roll, because more dice rolling is fun.
Math.
And math. I'm sorry, Abhishek.
It's okay. This
Hey, he got
is
7 plus
so
8 is
much.
15.
I'm practically in awe of you, man. I'm tired just looking at all this. So much.
So, what about if all of us can decide? Since bludgeoning seems like a really diverse and versatile system, and something that's kind of popular to do is making custom builds, is there a character that we can settle on and recreate on bludgeoning?
Yeah, if you guys can just tell me what it should be doing, I can figure out where it would fit in and what stances or what abilities it should have to get as close to that character fantasy as possible.
Awesome. So, do you guys want to take turns thinking of one character?
Sure.
I really like the idea of a divine character, sort of that your powers, it comes from your prayer and your faith.
Okay.
So I do want to, I actually stay away from playing any sort of magic or that sort of class. Like I'm more of a martial class sort of person. But I really like the idea of the divine character, and I wanted to understand, like, when you design that, like that part of Bludgeon, like, what exactly were you hoping to achieve with that?
Okay. I'll say the divine system is probably what came about last, because we spent forever coming up with variations of what divine should do and whether it kind of fulfilled the core fantasy of being someone who has faith and is kind of channeling the power of a god. What we wanted essentially at the end of the day was that having faith is one thing, but in a world where gods actually exist, and interact with the world, it's more than just kind of our real world understanding of it. And we wanted a system that said that they reward your actual actions. So I wanted to create a system that kind of pushed your divine character to want to do certain things without enforcing it. So if I go to an example of, let's say, a domain of knowledge and secrets, right? This is a character that cares about either hoarding or sharing knowledge. But at the core of it, it is the acquisition of knowledge of how things work. So if you look at their prayers, just this first example, a prayer of understanding, right? All your allies within that aura can reroll critical failures. This is a pretty simple one because you don't actively have to do anything, but it kind of serves the fantasy of being someone who understands how things work, and therefore everybody around you cannot fail spectacularly, right? But there is a trigger, right? That when an ally misses a melee attack, they gain a stack of guidance, which is their unique favor. And this means that if anybody around you misses, it's kind of, you can play this out in any way you want. It could be, you admonishing someone, being like, how did you not notice that? And then you're giving them guidance because you're pointing out what they did wrong. You could even play that out as you being like, oh no, dude, you should have done this instead. And same effect at the end of the day. But the way you kind of wrap it up in flavor is based on your character.
In the divine sort of thing, I want to make a character that's very tied to faith and nature.
Okay.
In the sense that I don't want her to be somebody who's, because I'm in my personal life an atheist. So playing divine is going to be challenging for me if I focus it on a god. So I sort of want to make it like she has a real love for nature. Mm-hmm. And she tries to, I want her to be a good person who sort of helps people through nature. So is there something like I can go for with that?
Yeah, we have a domain of cultivation. There we go. Of cultivation and contamination. Now, the way all the domains are structured is it's usually the flip sides of a singular concept. So, cultivation, contamination are both focused around growing things, but to different ends, right? So this might work for you because here you are trying to grow, just trying to grow people. Like you help them out. You're stacking this favor of yours that's called a seedling, and through your prayers, you'll stack that on your allies, and over time you can then convert that into different things. So it's kind of like tending a garden in a way.
And just to be clear, these aren't like actual seeds that they're putting in people's pockets, right? Okay.
No, this is terminology.
But it could be.
I mean, if you want it to be like little magical seeds that turn up, go for it.
We're all just going on a Jack and the Beanstalk adventure. That's the entire game. We're just like growing trees. Yeah, so that's sort of what I like. Somebody who's focused on prayer and nature and faith is somebody that I wanted to create.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I do think this cultivation would be the best best choice for this type of character. In terms of your interactions with the deity, unlike the real world, it's an actual being that will turn up occasionally, or you'll be able to see. So faith is easier to have when you know something actually exists. So I think it shouldn't be too hard for you to like be like, yeah, there's this dude who's got my back. And the god of cultivation, you can kind of structure that the way you want. I have a list of deities that I usually use in my default worlds for bludgeon related settings, or you can just create your own and we'll roll with that.
Okay. I think I'll stick to something that you've already created because I don't want to like create my own at this point. So is this like a class or is this the sort of knowledge domain that she's going to follow?
This is the domain that you she'll follow. In terms of classes, let me roll up. Have a list. Right. So we have, I think, 4 classes under divine. You have clerics, you have paladins, zealots, and rune priests. And the way their prayers interact with the people around them changes for each one. So clerics, it's very auditory. So they're actually chanting, and everybody around them who can hear it gets affected by whatever prayer. Paladins, it's visual. Just the way they look, the way they are, kind of enhances how that prayer affects everyone around them. Zealots, well, they're zealots. They're selfish. It applies to them, and they don't share those buffs, but they take the full benefit of it. And rune priests are interesting because they will carve a prayer onto whatever you want. It could be like a piece of paper. It could be like a wooden stick that you carve it onto quickly. Whatever fits your character, and you then place those in the battlefield, and those create these zones where that prayer is active. So you can kind of manipulate the battlefield and create areas where your allies want to be, where you want the enemies to come into.
Yeah, I like the idea of like creating a rune and then just sticking it on an enemy's forehead as sort of an attack. I like the idea of a rune priest actually. Yeah, like physically making those sort of things.
I'm sorry, I need to. My Zomato chap is very lost. I need to go get my food. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Like, yeah. So
No
sorry.
worries.
So sorry.
Just don't switch on the camera. Don't switch on the camera. Thank you.
Right. So
That's pretty trippy though, being a rune priest. Imagine you're like in a battlefield, you're trying to hit someone, suddenly a little gnome or something comes, slaps something on your forehead and runs away.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'd
like
be
a
questioning my
out
life.
of
if it
doom.
was-
Yeah.
Yeah.
are you going to like hit them and go like, you take bludgeoning damage?
you could
You've just
totally.
been bludgeoned.
Oh,
Oh
Yeah.
boy, I'm gonna hear a lot of this, aren't I?
Most
Yeah.
definitely.
This is just an excuse to come up with that phrase related to bludgeon. Like we're just seating you here for that, just to listen to that.
Just every
I'd
pun.
make a lot of puns as well if I could
Yep.
think of one.
Okay, there is a question in chat. Like they're asking, can you really stick a rune to an enemy's forehead?
I think so. Yeah, I've got like on the base version, maybe not. Let me just check what the Rune Priest does do. Yeah, on a base version, you inscribe it and it's kind of dropped in place. But then there are a whole bunch of additional passives that you can add to your character that changes behavior. So yeah, there we go. These are the Rune Priest passives. You can even throw it and have it explode. Yeah, there's a ton of different things you can do. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where the modability comes in, where I've tried to think of as many situations as possible and account for it, so that sure you can have the basic thing where it just puts down a little circle on the battlefield, but now you can do a lot more stuff. You can even self-inscribe it so you're just a walking rune.
I like the idea of making like little rangoli like designs, and then like when you throw it, it just explodes.
That's awesome.
That's just unexpected. But yeah, thank you. I think I'll go with that. Yeah.
Awesome. Abhishek, do you have any
question.
ideas?
I have
Yeah.
a question about the Rune Priest. The fifth one, the Holy Hand Grenade. Is that
Yeah.
a reference to Monty Python? Because if it isn't, it
course it
should
is.
be. Ah, good, good. Yeah, no, that's it. Just looking for things that I can identify that are references to something.
There will be references to a lot of things all over the place. Sometimes I forget the references I've put in, so when I'm like doing a revision at some point, I'll be like, "Oh wait, I did do this." And it must have been God knows when.
Hmm.
Let's do a
And
quick build of your character, Abhishek. What would you like to play?
Yeah. Okay. I have very little attention span, so I'm gonna go with something simple. I'd like go with like a mercenary of some sort,
Mhm.
but like not a very good one that keeps getting beat up.
Right.
So and the class, I think maybe I don't know, maybe a death or something because they look cool, the horns and shit.
The Thetheus definitely do. There
Yeah,
we go.
yeah. See, yeah. Just imagine that, but not so cool. Yeah.
You can, with martial classes, you do have a list of options, stance details, and there's an overview as well of all the possible stances that you can take.
Mhm.
Also, some of them have weapon requirements, some of them don't. So that can change up. I think.
Yeah, I see something called resilient crawler. You can take a punch. Some might even say you prefer to.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the tankier builds where you're like, yeah, this is our guy. Yeah.
This, but much more death there, like, and it will be difficult because, like Shweta said, in real life, I'm not a death there, unless you can see the tail, in which case you can see anything. But yeah, pop nugget, nice. Yeah, I might go with this. A simple build, take fire on.
Yeah, you weather all the damage. That's
Yeah.
that's always a valid way to go.
Yeah.
Fairly straightforward too.
Yeah. Yeah. And if in the next session I die, people watching at home, this is the point where it was foreshadowed. When they say, when you go, you take many blows.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, and Shima, what are you thinking?
I have like, I think ever since I saw that art of that incredibly hot crocodile in a sari, I have just not gotten the, that Shah Rukh Khan movie,
What?
which damn it, I forgot the name.
You mean the Sushmita Sen scene?
Yeah, yeah. What's the name of the
Hmm.
movie? Okay,
Mehuna.
Mehuna. Yeah, and I just wanted to see Shushmita Sen as a crocodile in a sari immediately. Okay, I don't know why. It was just fan art. I just wanted to see, and I have like a huge thing with alliterations, and honestly, I've never played a character that's not started with a K on this stream before. So there's always a first time, and I wanted to go for like the 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 M cube over here with Madam Muggermuch. So
Amazing.
I really wanted to play a school teacher, and the first teacher that came to it was quite fondly this English teacher that I had, and it was just this pivotal moment in my life where there was this point where we were all sitting quite silently in the classroom, and she looks out of the window and just gets startled and rushes towards the window and yells out, "Dirty creatures! Bloody, where are you going? Come back here." And I have always wanted to role play her, and that's what I'm role playing right now. So
Yeah.
I'm going for a Miss Crocodile who is a sort of a wizard, and her skills would essentially be sniffing out lies, um, this thing, doing a gross amount of intimidation, and her primary weapon of choice would be an English textbook. But in this way, it would be an arcane textbook.
Ren and Martin.
I'm sorry, I'm still trying to get the image out of my head.
I'm
Sushmita Sen is saying, bloody idiots come back to the class or something. I don't know,
It's
still hot.
yes.
amazing. With
Yeah.
wizards, go ahead. Sorry.
Please go ahead. I'm going to try finding that page with the skills now.
Right. Oh, I think I cut way ahead. But wizards are cool because you're basically going to be creating a spell book, which is perfect for your textbook. And yeah, you inscribe your spells into your textbook, and you just have to be like, yeah, I've got this spell. It's written right here, and you use it.
So I did notice that instead of spell slots, we use things called pages or sheets. I think they're called sheets.
Pages. Well,
Pages, yes, yes.
yeah. The pages are specifically for you as a wizard.
Okay.
So for your spell book, you start with, I think it was 25 pages, and oh yeah, it's right there, 25 pages, and there is a sort of breakdown of when you create a spell, how many pages it uses. So you will have to choose what element you want,
Okay.
right? So let's just say, for example, you take fire as an element. You can say, okay, I'm creating a basic spell that'll take 1 page, and I'm going to create a cone spell, which is a range of 2 and does 1d6 damage. And from your list of fire abilities, you can say, I'm adding this ability that says just apply a stack of burning to the enemy.
Got it.
That's one basic spell. You can give it whatever name you want, whatever you think is like cool for that spell. And then you can always make it more powerful. You can be like, oh wait, I want this particular cone spell to do more damage. And you can say, okay, I'm increasing its damage. And to do that, you add 2 more pages to the cost of that spell.
Okay.
Right? And you can fill out a book with 25 pages worth of spells. So you can, if you want, just create one big spell worth 25 pages. And then after that, you just use a weapon. But it's up to you. Do whatever feels cool.
Got it. And how do these different the elemental powers work? Like, how many can you choose for your character?
For a wizard, I believe, you choose about 4. or 5. And the list is down here. Here we go. Right? So using fire as an example. If you were taking fire, you'd choose 4 of these abilities, any 4, and you would choose which one gets added to a spell, and that can vary.
Okay.
Additionally, because your spells have different shapes, you can add different features to the shape. So if we were talking about cones, and you said, oh, you wanted to add a or you used an upgrade point to unlock buckshot spell.
Mm-hmm.
So then enemies adjacent to you would take an additional bit of damage because that was a modifier you added. Which means that maybe you want to now rush in and be in the thick of it and then use a cone spell, so everybody gets hit. If you added, let's say, geometry to your line spell, you could change the direction of a line halfway through.
Oh,
So that it can, yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So you have a ton of options of how to modify the base functionality of each thing. And then you also have additional passives based off your class. So for wizards, you'll have a lot of abilities that allow you to decrease the spellbook pages used to do different things. So you can fit more spells into your spellbook.
God.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know. There's so many things you can do to flavor how the magic turns out.
Oh yeah, there's a
Something for
lot.
everything.
I've tried to find as many different options, and I'm sure there are things I've missed. But over time, I can always just add them in. That's the benefit of being the author.
Okay.
But yeah, like one of my favorite classes is actually the warlock, because we went really hardcore with the warlock. So when you play a warlock, you not only choose your patron, but you choose the relationship you have with the patron, like how they view you,
Okay.
and also what you sacrifice to your patron to get your power. And that sacrifice also changes how you would visually look.
Oh, that's so cool. So it's like the undying subclass in the sort of form of dread that warlocks have in D&D, but I've always found that as super cool that you might take on features as you slowly get more indebted to them.
Here you get it from the get-go. So it's
Yeah.
better that way.
That's damn cool.
Yeah, so I did this mostly because I play a lot of warlocks, and I wanted something that was like really, really thematic and cool. So like, if you wanted, you could to get your power, you could have branded yourself, right? And that comes with a certain cost to it, to your character, but you also get certain powers based off of that as well.
Oh.
So it's always a little bit of give and take, and even your relationship to your patron will change how much of their magic they'll allow you to use.
Got it. So if I have pages, what do the others get? And how do they use magic or cast magic?
Okay. So for let's just start at the top here then. You have wizards who have spell pages. Sorcerers can just straight up amplify, but every time they amplify any aspect of their spell, they take reductions to their roll, and every time they fail a roll after having amplified it, they start storing chaotic energy inside of them, and once they hit a threshold, there's a little explosion that happens, because all that energy has to go somewhere. So they'll hurt themselves, and they'll hurt everyone around them. And that's called basically instability and expulsion. So technically they have access to limitless amounts of power, but it also means it's not stable power. So that's the way they work.
Okay.
Bards are cool because they have this thing where they have verses, and each verse has a different effect. So you'll use these verses and affect people in smaller ways. But every time you use a verse, you're accruing spell points. And then you use those spell points to cast a spell, which is kind of like your epic solo after having kind of built up to it.
Okay. Oh, that's so cool.
And warlocks, I just
There's-
explained. Yeah.
There's actually like reason for the bards to keep air guitaring throughout the battle.
Pretty much, yeah. You could and like this is the base list of verses that you can use, but there's like further ones you can unlock, and they all do interesting little things. And once you get to the big power note, which is what I call it, you then cast this awesome spell that can be as powerful as the spell points you had kind of built up over time. So it's kind of on the bard, like, do they want to spend more time building up more power, or just keep shooting out things every turn or two?
Beat drop or mic drop.
Exactly. And warlocks, they have they can use basic spells, and then they can risk using more power by just forcing power from their patron, and then hope to God that their patron doesn't notice and kind of get back at them for it.
That is so
Because-
cool. So
Because clearly, bludgeon patrons have very set terms and conditions.
Well, they definitely do. So
So are they like deities or
Or are they like
Patrons?
actually lawyers?
yeah.
the patrons at the moment are non-divine characters. They're just very powerful arcane users who will then share some of their power.
ooh, that's so cool.
So
I
like
lo-
when you sorry, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
So
go
like
ahead.
when you mean that if your patron comes to know, that means like through the grapevine?
Yeah, no, not through the grapevine, because you are essentially pulling power straight from them. You have kind of like a
okay.
direct line, so you can empower your spells for a lot. But when you do, you also risk them noticing that you've kind of drawn more power than they allowed you.
Oh.
Okay.
And then they slap a lawsuit on you, right?
Pretty much,
yeah, yeah.
There are different penalties. So if, let's say, you had like an actual trade with your patron, like you said, I do this, you give me this, they'll steal some gold from you as a cost of noticing that you took more than you were allowed to. If
In
let's
some-
say, yeah,
But in some cases, it's literally going to cost an arm and a leg.
oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and I totally forgot. Warlocks also have this cool thing called locus casting, which is they can cast one shape of spell into another shape of spell from the target.
Oh.
So you can go like a line spell, a line spell into a cone from that target.
Oh
or
my god,
yeah.
that's so cool.
So what you're
That's
saying
their
is
rule.
Warlock is the coolest class there is.
I mean, I may be a little biased, but the others all have their little things. Sorcerers, a friend of mine did this really cool thing where he built his sorcerer to want to explode. So he took a bunch of features and passives that allowed him to do more damage to people around him when he exploded and less damage to himself. And then he would kind of accrue that and then just rush into the battle and explode and do more damage to everybody around him. So
did this friend want to recreate Wile E. Coyote?
maybe it's possible. But yeah, so I've tried to find cool things to do and find the fun essentially with every single class and race, and hopefully you guys can find as many cool little interactions as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, like shout out to our audience because I mean, Bludgeon's so insanely comprehensive that I'm struggling with scrolling the pages. So this gives you more of a reason to buy yourself a copy and support them when it comes out because like it's insane. There's just so much in it and it's so comprehensive and it's honestly like it might look like a lot, but every page is just so detailed and you've broken down so many of the sentences into like smaller points, so it's just quick to just go reference anytime you need to, more than having to like read through like paragraphs constantly each time.
And from
Thank you.
what little we've seen of the art thus far, like spectacular.
Oh
Oh,
my
thank you. we've used a few different artists. A lot of the character art comes from a studio called E3 Studios. They're based in Hyderabad. Our cover art comes from an individual named Hazem Amin. He's based in Kerala, I believe. And our art for some of the Eastern martial arts class. Let me just find one of them. That comes from Akansha Mitra, who is based, I think, in Hyderabad. But I may be wrong there. But yeah, she's done the art for those characters, like these.
This was the other Yantarlog art that you showed.
Exactly.
Which page number is
Yeah.
this?
191, I think.
181. Got it.
I'm just picturing. Are you, Shema? Are you thinking of playing a warlock? Because then the idea of like Madam Magarmach having a warlock patron come there and
Oh God, that'll make me so much holier, right? I mean, holier in a different way. Like I'm constantly calling out.
Your
And school
patron
teachers
would be-
always have headmasters.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're like
Oh, I love that
at the
idea.
end of the
would
day,
be-
I
yeah,
love that idea.
it's
A
the headmaster of the
principal.
school.
Yes,
Yeah.
my God, the principal that like she might
The-
be a spinstress for everyone else, but damn, does she want to get in his good books? I love it. Yes, totally looking at the warlock right now.
Right, I'm playing a death, right? I hope I'm not related to them.
No, not really. But yeah, so page 191 has one of Akansha's arts for the was it the mastery of emotion? And then on 195, there's a art for the mastery of Dragon Soul.
Ooh,
Ooh.
damn.
Stupid.
Sick.
Oh my God, so beautiful. Oh, this is kind of like when you get a glimpse of something that could quickly become an obsessive hobby, you know, and then you just like, oh, there's so much to devour.
What?
What
But yeah,
happens if I mix these two?
Adi, it's your turn. What would you like to play, or what's the like, sort of idea you're going for, so we can do like a quick build?
So I had an interesting idea for a caster who kind of works primarily in close range.
Uh-huh.
So, like, you know, in the sense of a telekinetic monk, was what I was kind of trying to build. And I think I'm pretty set on the kinetic wizard
Ooh.
class because I've gone through this process with the Bludgeon Master a while back. And the kinetic wizards, I think they really like, you know, it sinks into what I kind of want to do. Like I just want to be a variable caster, like, you know, in frontline or midline or even from the range option.
Totally
So
viable.
I kind of wanted to build like this, like, you know, like,
I think
So,
kinetic
yeah.
works perfectly for you then, because
Yeah.
you will have a lot of abilities that you can add to your spells that'll allow you to just push and pull
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
If you want a good class, you can obviously go wizard. Sorcerer can work as well. If you want to, I mean, I won't suggest warlock because Shema's kind of leaning that way. But I think between sorcerer and wizard, you're pretty much set. You'll still get a choice of like a weapon to start off with, so you'll have like a backup option there if you just need to use a physical attack. There will also be abilities that you can gain. I think via a wizard that lets you channel spells through your weapon. So if you want that, you can go like kind of like a mix. Let me double check that because I remember adding something along those lines a long time back, once upon a time. It was either with Wizard or it was with just a general feat. Oh no, it was with contact spells. So anybody who has access to a contact spell could do that. So you could, yeah, this is on page 78. You'll see weapon enchantment. You can spend a full turn to imbue any weapon type with an element you have learned. This can be applied to unarmed strikes as well. So if you just want to use that spell, your fists as weapons, you can. Yeah, so it just applies whatever element to your weapon.
I think because I did pounce on that line quite like with a feverish zeal. And I did pick, I think I went with the Ghost Hand as one of my upgrade points. So I can cast contact spells from one tile away.
Oh,
Nice.
So yeah, I think I'm fairly set on like what I want to do.
I can't wait till like you guys just come up against a bunch of enemies and we see how this plays out. It's gonna be so fun.
They just
And like one of the things that I really want to say is that like I love how it's very open and nebulous into how the spells work, right? Because in D&D, at least that being the system that I'm most familiar with, like the only class that is kind of like offered a little more like exploration into how individual the casting can look like would be an artificer, because they use their magic through items.
yeah.
But like in any other class, the spell, it's the same shape, it's the same thing. But like in the bludgeon system, how the magic and spells work is that you are making everything in the moment. So it's much more an artificer buildup of how the thing happens, as opposed to a wizard how the thing happens. And I quite like the sound of that.
Fantastic. Yeah, spellcrafting is gonna be great. And with like enough options, and once I get to see what feats you end up taking, it's gonna be pretty cool. Like what options we have available to us. Oh, and for reference, on page 59, there is like just an explanation of what the shapes are. Oh, and if we want, if we still have a little bit more time left on stream, we can just kind of quickly go through stats and just set up what your base stats are.
Yes, do you think we could maybe like make like a base character in like 15 minutes, just to kind of show the steps we take to go through making a level 1 character?
Yeah, for sure. You guys have actually gone through the hard part of kind of deciding what class and what race you want to play as. The stats is fairly simple. I'm currently looking at page 11, where we have the stat breakdown, and it's like three steps to define your stats. First, you allocate 2 points under each column. You can choose to put both of those points in one stat or one in 2 different ones. So ideally, after that first step, you should have a total of 6 points across all 9. Once you've done that,
Got it.
yeah. So, for example, if I was creating a character, I'd maybe say, oh, I want to put 2 in strength, maybe 1 in memory, 1 in wit, and maybe 2 in empathy. So that's 2 across each column. You also can decide which stat you want to be your dominant stat, because we have a concept of a dominant stat mod.
Cool.
And what we want that to be is kind of what you scale your abilities off of. We, again, to move away from defining, oh, casters can only use this one stat to scale off of. We wanted it to be more freeform of, you can explain how this stat applies to your spellcasting, your weapon usage, whatever way you want. As an example, if I was a fighter, I could say empathy is my dominant stat because in the moment, I can read a person and react to it, right? I can also just say strength is my dominant stat for that same fighter because I am physically strong, and that matters.
Got it.
I could even say it's memory and say because I have done the routines and it is basically muscle memory at this point that I understand how to fight and react to these specific situations. That should be my dominant stat.
So basically, this eliminates the D&D trope that never got going, which is a barbarian can be a nerd.
More or less.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Smart job.
Yeah.
There's no dumb stat as such.
No.
No.
Oh, that's
You choose what your dump stat is.
oh,
Hmm.
very nice.
So once you guys have 2 points across each, you can then add 2 points anywhere you want. That is 1 point in 2 different stats. And these kind of are based off of how you expect your character's background to have been. So if, like, Shema, your character, as a teacher, maybe you would say, oh, one of those points goes in memory, and maybe one goes into persona, because as a teacher, you need to have a certain amount of persona. Or you can say, no, one goes into memory and one goes into wit, because you want to focus on being that brainy type of teacher. Maybe it's finesse, because, teachers also react very quickly with throwing that little chalk at people.
Oh,
So go for whichever two works best for your character and maybe how they became who they are.
that's so much fun. Like having insane dexterity for just throwing chalk.
You can't say for
That-
certain that our teachers didn't have insane dexterity.
That is true.
Yeah.
I've had chalk thrown at my forehead so many times with extreme accuracy.
I have bruises that can attest to that fact as well.
Yeah. So yeah, like hell, if you want your spells to look like chalk being thrown or a duster being thrown, go for it. So yeah, once you guys have added those 2 points, you now just choose what your flaw is. So you should have a few zeros in your table. Choose any one of the zeros and make it a -1.
Hmm.
And there you have it. You just then have to highlight one of the stats as your dominant stat mod. And that's it. Your stats are done.
Oh, awesome.
Right? The rest, honestly, is just making choices. So if you were playing let's say a Daitya, right? The first thing you do is go to the Daitya page or whatever race you are playing as, and just check their adaptations and choose one, right? You get one for free. If your race has one that says you gain this at character creation, you gain that and one extra. I think about 3 of the races have something that's just inherently theirs. And once you've done that, you just have to move to your individual character, or the stance that you've chosen. In your case, Abhishek, and write down the abilities that you have. And you have under each section one that's called creating a martial character, creating an arcane character, so on and so forth. And that'll just tell you very quickly what choices you have and how many upgrade points you have to use where. So, for example, on page 144, this is creating a martial character. So for Abhishek, he just has to choose a weapon. He has to choose one of the disciplines that are listed below. Then he chooses a stance, which he's already chosen. And then he has 5 points, so he can go straight to that stance and choose which 5 abilities he wants, or he can say, no, I'm going to spend 2 of those on my stance, and then 1 on another racial ability, and maybe 2 on something else. That's entirely their choice.
So bolster HP is just like adding the points to the
Yes.
HP.
That's generally the last thing I do is like defining your health, where you just roll 4 plus 1d4, and that is your starting health. And after that, you just tell me whether you want light armor or heavy armor. Again, the armor can look whatever way you want. You can describe it in as many terms or as few terms as you'd like, as showy or not. And but I'll just tell you what the stats for that are, and the stats are laid out in like what starting stats are, and then what end game stats should look like, and it's just that scale that a DM has to follow. And yeah, finally, there's the competencies, which is similar to D&D skills, where you choose what your character is good at. You can choose, I believe, up to 5 unique ones, and that's that.
Correct.
Yeah, because I think other than the competencies, it literally did take me a long time to actually just go through all of the options, because there's so much customization that is capable, right? And I was just like salivating over some options, and I was like, but if I take that, then
I know.
but like I chose like I have all of the picks that I've picked for my wizard. Like, if you kind of want to, I don't know, go into it, like to kind of explain.
Yeah.
The like, so why I chose kinetic wizard is that another thing that Tejas said was that other than armor class, you also have this thing called magic resistance. Which kind of comes into play. And the interesting thing about kinetic wizards is that because of their intrinsic thing is bludgeoning force, and I was like, yeah, bludgeoning, and I was like, yeah, let's go. And so all kinetic abilities have no elemental damage of their own type, and are instead considered to be physical or blunt damage. But this is checked against the AC instead of the MR.
Yeah.
So, like, even if there's something that's a ridiculously high magic resistance, like, I don't know, I have shields, I have force, and like, you know, just go. And so I picked as from the list of options for the kinetic wizard, I picked polarize, which is if the target make a strength versus the reflex save, and if 2 or more targets fail their save, choose a midpoint in the straight line between them, and they're forced to move 2 tiles closer. Another one is transferred momentum. Any hit, they have to make a reflex save. If they fall, they are pushed back a number of tiles equal to the tiles you've moved.
Yeah.
Hammering blows, which is any forced movement, affects that trigger from other aspects of the spell. And this is increased by the number of tiles they move. So if they move away from me, from getting hit from me, they get more damage. And I have chosen Shredder, which means if my attack misses, they have to make a reflex save. And if they fail, they suffer a -1 to AC permanently.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
And I was just like, wait, so I can do this? Then and then like the last one that I picked was the dampening field, which is where you target a single target, and this person will this character can reduce weapon damage taken till the end of your turn. So it's also a buffing kind of situation. And the upgrade points that I chose for my wizard were, the one was the spell shape and contact, so ghost hand. I can cast contact spells from 1 tile away. I took the wizard feat prefab, which means I can now imbue common items such as candles, glass balls, and other trinkets with spells.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
And the last one was decals, which were kinetic decals. When I can choose any element, the relevant overbear for the saving throws made by enemies against effects from this element is increased by your DSM, which I forgot. What is the DSM? Sorry.
You choose one of your stats that you want to be your dominant stat.
Oh.
Right.
So if let's just say you put 3 points total in abstraction, and that's your DSM, then you would increase your overbear by 3.
I'm just sitting here, just amazed. You guys giving so much input. Meanwhile, my character idea is I'm okay getting punched in the face.
Yeah, we need variety, spice of life.
Yeah.
I just
Martial classes, they have you eventually you'll find your depth whilst you're getting punched in the face many times.
Maybe I'll have an epiphany.
I just saw your warlock sacrifice feats, and
Oh,
it's such a page of horror.
It's the most metal warlock I have ever encountered.
Oh,
Like,
metal. I love that. Okay, so I was just reading it, and it's just like, yeah, so you sacrifice something as a ritual, and you get something back. And I see eyes, and I'm like, eyes, and then I see gain perfect dark vision, and I'm like, okay, cool, okay, that works. So, oh my god, these are
terms
nuts.
and conditions.
you can even use them to shoot lasers.
Oh, oh my god, I mean, like a Superman.
Wait, there are lasers?
Well, if you're a warlock and you've sacrificed your eyes, then yeah, you can choose to have those eyes have the ability to shoot.
And then you have the
Attack eyes.
audacity to say that every class here is well managed.
Well,
All I
fair.
can see is warlocks.
I'm still taking suggestions for improvements. It is, there's still little balance changes coming in.
You lost your eyesight, but you can throw a rave anytime.
Yeah.
I had a question about the DSM,
Yeah.
which I always forget. It's dominant stat mod, right?
Yes.
So when I look through them, I want to play a rune priest, right? So I was thinking maybe memory should be my DSM, but I want my character to, just because she has to remember the runes, but like I want my character to sort of be not like use empathy, not in a way to sort of understand the emotions of the people around her, but to understand nature and like sense like she's someone who I'll say talks to the flowers and plants. She's like that kind of Mackie. And I wanted her to sort of sense the emotions of the nature around her. So would empathy then work in that sense? Like I can use it that way?
Yeah, totally. Like, so the way I look at it is, as long as you have an explanation that works, I'm not going to like block you from using any stat as your DSM. So for this example, this is great because you can just be like, oh, I don't memorize runes. What I do is, because nature is always evolving and changing, the runes of my god also change. And it doesn't even have to be a rune that you write. It could just be like a scribble. It could be a symbol that means something to your deity that they recognize. So in the moment, you're like, oh, wait, this is what the deity wants. This is what they mean. And you inscribe something that catches their attention so that they can channel their energy through it. There you go.
Yeah, that sounds really great. Oh, you can sacrifice a leg?
Yeah. It's nuts. You can sacrifice your
a
tongue.
complete switch.
I just saw that on the stream that you were sharing. Like, oh,
Yeah, I was like, wow, okay, because I was just getting to go into session 0, talking about like, maybe I don't want any self-harm. But then I see warlock feats and I'm like, screw that. Okay, okay, I'm gonna be going
Cut
for
me
this.
up.
Yeah.
The most metal warlock school teacher.
Ever, yeah.
Oh
Just
God.
has a head.
I
We
need
all
just
love our
has a
English
head.
teachers.
I
But
need
No
to ask,
torso, no legs.
can crocodiles grow hair? Or she just has a fake wig that she puts on before she does the sacrifice?
I probably I don't know. Which
know-
there's nothing hair related, is there?
That sort of the ones that you get for weddings when they just want to elongate the bride's hair to ridiculous amounts.
extensions, yeah.
Yeah, but it's just
Yeah.
a clip, that sort of thing. But
I really want your crocodile to have a bob, like typical English teacher
oh my God.
bob that they have. That's so cute.
Oh God.
That brings
But
back
wait,
some-
can warlocks sacrifice their dignity?
I think
Oh,
it's already
I never
been
thought of
done.
that.
How do you think they became a warlock?
Ouch. Ouch. I was promised a pension, okay? That's all.
I'm kind of curious about this principal that's your patron now. Just
I'm curious
yeah.
too.
if you're working at this school, it'll cost you an arm and a leg.
Or like your patron is a pension officer. And every time he shows up, you're like, oh, please give me my pension. I've been waiting for so long.
Wait,
Yeah.
is your principal headmaster they have to have a Matai or something in their surname, a Matai.
Oh my God. And yeah.
There is a relationship type called the trade or avarice relationship with your patron. So yeah, if you want it to be pensioned, that fits in.
Oh God, I just
I just want to know why the avarice/trade says your patron desires physical things. What does the things mean?
I mean, an arm and a leg.
Well, I was thinking
Students'
I was
tears?
students' tears, yeah, in a bottle. I was thinking so many papers graded by the end of the term.
Oh my God,
I need them on my desk.
you guys are giving me so many ideas with this. I love that everybody is just fascinated with school teachers and investing in the school teacher lore.
We're all fighting on the battlefield. You're like, no, I can't, guys. My patron wants me to correct these papers today.
It's I owe my back. Okay, just go sit at the side.
Given that we all have knowledge of the patron, we all just go yeah, sounds legit, sure.
Yeah, I just refer to him as Sir, nothing else.
No name, just sir.
Oh,
That's perfect.
but I think we are almost done with session 0. Does anybody have any final questions before we finish?
I did want to say one thing. I'm really scared of being on stream, and I'm going to be using to comfort myself the dice from Kumi Curiosities. I wish I could pick them up and show, because I've kept them out, and there's these beautiful pink and teal dice. I wish I could show them. Instead, I'll just take a photo and maybe you can put it up on Twitter. They're so pretty and they're really making me feel happy
Thank
to be
you so
here.
much. Yeah, Shweta has been awesome. I got to do a mini commission for her, and it's been the best seeing these tiny little characters come to life.
Yeah,
And,
that was amazing. Thank you.
It's awesome.
But
I really want to see these dice.
yes, thankfully we have Discord groups. I'm glad for that. But everybody, thank you so much to everybody who joined us today. Honestly, seeing the viewership right now, we had 20 people odd here for throughout the stream, and that's honestly pretty big, because usually you don't get more than 5 people and 3 of them might be TPK. But we have fantastic friends though, including Shweta and Monica and all these great guys who come here all the time. And thank you to everybody new who's joined us here to see the session 0 of Bludgeon. We're so excited to play test this over the span of the next 5 weeks. We will be taking a brief break on 11th February, but otherwise You can catch us every Saturday starting from next weekend. And super excited to start. Oh my god, I love all the characters. I can't wait to see where it's like what this adventure is going to be. Honestly, when they just said unsound underground, and I was just like, underground. What are we doing under there? It's like I immediately look at the Bludgeon cover, and I'm just like, this seems very on point.
Yeah, I'm excited for you guys to kind of discover this new city, see what's happening.
I'm excited as well, but mostly because I can furiously DM Tejas when he inevitably ends us in a cliffhanger. Because
No.
damn you.
Imagine the 1 week gap where we take a break. I'm gonna try and go for a really good cliffhanger at that point, so you have 2 weeks to stew.
Oh no,
As you should. As you should.
Yeah, I'm just trying to imagine how I'm gonna kill you when I find you.
Yes, everybody catch us next Saturday at 8 p.m. IST. If you want to play Bludgeon as well, like Tejas runs a lot of games on our server. There's always an issue with scheduling, but hey, that's how TPT RPGs run. Okay, it is always open for new people coming. I'm so glad because I was just like, I literally told the rest of the TPK guys, listen, I'll get new people. I want to stream this. Okay? I was just like, I want to play right now. And I'm so glad that when I put that request out, all three of you were just immediately like, yes, I want to come on board. I might not have streamed before or don't like streaming at all, but I want to play this game. So thank you for the combined enthusiasm, everybody. And we are going to cut our session right now. Thank you for joining us, audience, and take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.